Is this the start of a new era of plugins which is making it easier for anyone to be able to become a music producer and mix and master music? It's a very bold question to ask yourself as a music producer, but that might just be what's happening. As music producers, we're attuned to the normality of how we mix, process, and master music. We're used to plugins having many different features and settings which we have to adjust to achieve the exact sound that we want and be able to manipulate audio in ways that we want as well. And because of this complexity, it's harder for anyone to just become a producer overnight and produce to that professional standard that you hear in the charts and in the industry. But because of the advances in technology, algorithms and data analyzing tools, this isn't going to last forever. And the question I've been asking myself now is, are we seeing the future of plugins in this new one which has been released by Slate? The plugin in question that I'm talking about is Fresh Air, and it's a new era of plugin that comes out which is all designed around simplicity and making it easier than ever for anyone to be able to use this plugin to create the desired effect that this plugin goes for. Now this plugin does what it says on the tin. It's called Fresh Air. The plugin looks like this, and it's all about adding that brightness to a track, maybe a vocal or an instrument, or maybe on the output of a track, without having to use an EQ and adjust settings specifically to get the sound you want and go looking for it. If you're a producer and you don't really know how to do that, then this is the plugin that can make that happen for you. The plugin itself has 3 knobs for mid-air, high-air and trim, and it's also got a nice little VU meter / RMS and peak values decibel, which basically shows you the level that's going out the output of this track. So it's simple, but is it effective? So what we're going to be doing today to answer the question whether this is really the future in motion right now and whether this is something which is going to simplify EQing for your beginners in production, we're going to run this through a vocal from one of my old songs, and we're also going to run it on the output track using a multimeter to analyze the differences when this is applied at certain settings. So now we're going to go into Logic, and as you can see here, we have the plugin open on a vocal with our multimeter. Now what we're going to do is we can listen to the vocal without the Fresh Air, so we know what it is that we're dealing with.
I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling weak. It's like the whole world's over me, overwhelmed till I fall asleep.
Now, before I apply this plugin, I want to go into a little bit more detail about what these 2 knobs are actually doing as you turn them up. So you've got mid-air and high-air. And now what I believe is these 2 knobs are assigned to different frequency sections on an EQ. If you look at a normal EQ, you have 20 Hz, 20 kilohertz of frequency band to manipulate with notch filters, high and low pass filters to boost certain qualities that you like or dislike in an audio signal. What this plugin is trying to do is make it easy for you just to boost the certain parts that you like, create that desired fresh air effect that you hear a lot on pop vocals, and soften up vocals as well. So the mid-air, I believe, would be assigned anywhere from maybe the 250 up to the 4K, and the high air will take over after 4K. So you've got a pretty good grasp of the whole frequency spectrum here. So it'll be really interesting to see how well you can actually mix a vocal using this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the settings all the way up, and with this in mind, we're going to see what it does.
I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling weak. It's like the whole world's over me, overwhelmed till I fall asleep.
You can see the VU meter working there, which is really cool because it shows you when a peak is, and it does line up because it shows you it peaked there where it also peaked on the multimeter. So that's good. That works properly. Now, the thing I've noticed is the massive boost in the high end everywhere. As I said, from 4K, there's just been a massive lift, along with also in the lower frequencies as well. So that's what they're doing. I'm hearing a tiny bit of compression. The dynamic range has been decreased very slightly, but the thing that I'm concerned about is the amount of unwanted noise which has been added to the vocal. Now, this is the whole reason why EQs are meant to be technical and have loads of different settings, so you can take certain frequencies you don't like and cut them straight out while also being able to boost ones that you want in the same area. So I'm going to just adjust these settings to somewhere that I'm happy with.
I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling weak. It's like the whole world's over me, overwhelmed till I fall asleep.
Now, the thing that's really interesting is I do like the mid-air. The mid-air adds a little bit of saturation, which sort of makes the vocal sound a little bit more warm, a little bit more prominent in the mix. But the high air, I'm really struggling to find a good place for that to sit, because even though it's doing what it says and it's adding that air, that brightness, it just feels a little bit too destructive and you can't control that as well as you might want to. But that said, it is very handy to have. There's a lot of times where it can be pretty non-existent to get some high end and some something, especially if you're recording with like a dynamic microphone maybe, and you want to add that soft air like you're recording with a condenser, and I think it can achieve that. There is a lot I like about that high air. It's adding a lot. There's just a certain few harsh frequencies which I say that I would want to cut out, which is when I may next add the EQ in and just find them certain frequencies and just try to control them a bit more. Which is why, again, I think this is something that could be very handy for a top producer who maybe wants to save a bit of time. But because I said this plugin is mainly tailored towards the beginners in production, I want to sort of use this a bit on a minimalist basis to see, is this going to be beneficial and is it going to make something sound better? Because, you know, that's what we want it to do at the end of the day. To test that is I'm going to put this on the output track. For a lot of people who struggle to mix and master, sometimes when you want to add that high end, you never really know what it is you're meant to be doing. So I'm just thinking, if we add fresh air to the output, will we get a nice bright mix which will be attuned to like pop music? And if we add the mid as well, is it going to be too harsh, or is it going to add a bit of a nice mid balance? Let's find out. So we got our fresh air hooked up now to the output track. Turn it off first and listen to the production without the fresh air on. Okay, so firstly, like, there's a couple things I noticed in the sort of the whole frequency balance of the mix that I'm not entirely happy with. I did mix this a few years ago and I have learned a lot more since then. So there's a couple of things I changed naturally. So let's see if we can change them things with the fresh air. I do want to add a little bit more brightness, but I don't want to be harsh with it. So now we're going to add the fresh air in and we're going to slowly turn up controls and see if we can make this mix sound better. When I turned up the mid-air, I noticed mostly that the hi-hats were definitely starting to come in a lot more, which makes me think that maybe this mid-air is operating anywhere from 1K to maybe 3-4K, because that's when the mid of the hi-hat really starts to punch through. The thing I was actually surprised about though, I actually managed to do a little bit more of a high boost to sort of even out the low part of the mix with the mid to highs. I was quite impressed with the result actually. It's by no means the perfect mix at all, but it's definitely improved it, which is really cool, and that's good to know if you're a beginner producer that this can improve your mix just by having it applied. Now if I look at this now, maybe as someone who's been producing for a couple of years, maybe I wouldn't just use this fresh air plugin to fix all my problems, but if you're a bedroom producer, or if maybe again you don't have the know-how as much to make certain things sound a different way, especially when it comes to dealing with the mid to high frequencies and adding brightness to a track, then at the start of this video I said, is this like the new era of plugins? And I do think down the line these sorts of things are going to improve a lot more. This plugin, it's not the be-all end-all. It does what it says on the tin, which I guess is really going to plug in. I highly recommend this for beginners, by the way. If you're a beginner just getting into music production and you don't understand how to process and mix music, then this is the plugin for you. It is free, so even if you're a pro and you just want to experiment with a different plugin, I also recommend going to Slate's website and downloading this. I will leave the link below to get it. I have not been paid or endorsed by Slate to promote this. I just thought it would be interesting to do a video on this and cover this because it does seem like a cool plugin. It's made by Slate, but yeah, there's still a little bit of a way to go before every single plugin is only turning one or two knobs, and there's also a lot of fun in knowing the technicalities of mixing. That's what it's all about. But yes guys, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, support the channel, trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year, and other than that guys, I will see you in the next video.